AITA for telling my wife her ex can keep her after driving her to him at the hospital? I am 34 years old. I met Claire, who is now 31, 5 years ago at a buddy's birthday party. I remember it like it was yesterday. She was standing alone by the snack table, wearing that look of someone who barely knows the host and is not sure where to plant themselves. I walked over, offered her a drink, and made some terrible joke about the 7-layer dip looking more like a geology experiment. She let out this genuine, unforced laugh, and something inside my chest just shifted. That one laugh made me want to hear it again and again. We talked for hours that night, the party fading into the background. Before I left, I asked for her number. From that point on, everything moved at lightning speed. There was this intense, almost electric connection between us. We finished each other's sentences, discovered we shared the same weird taste in old movies, and had the kind of chemistry you only see in romantic comedies. By the 3rd month, we were spending every night at each other's places. At 6 months, we made it official and signed a lease on an apartment together. When we started dating, she had been single for about a year. She had just ended an almost 7-year relationship with her college boyfriend, Mark. The way she explained it, they had simply reached a natural end. We grew in different directions, she told me once, her tone calm and matter-of-fact. She never talked about him much, which I took as a good sign. There were no old photos of him on her social media or sentimental keepsakes tucked away in a box. Whenever his name came up, she mentioned him with complete neutrality, like he was a former coworker she barely remembered. I never once got the feeling he was the one that got away. 2 years after we started dating, I proposed. 6 months later, we had a small wedding ceremony, surrounded by our closest friends and family. My parents adored her. Her parents seemed to accept me without any issues. Our friend groups meshed perfectly. Everything just fell into place with a kind of ease that made me feel like the luckiest man alive. Looking back now, I can see the small signs I chose to ignore. But at the time, I was so in love that I did not want to question a single thing. About a year after the wedding, I started to notice Claire getting tense whenever we ran into old college acquaintances who also knew Mark. Her shoulders would stiffen, and her smile would look a little forced. I told myself it was normal to feel a bit awkward when an ex comes up in conversation. Then, last Christmas, her college friend Jessica came over for dinner. After a couple of glasses of wine, Jessica started reminiscing about old times, and Mark's name came up more than once. It caught my attention how Claire seemed to hang on every word. She was listening with this barely concealed intensity. "So, how is he doing now?" she asked, trying to sound casual. Jessica replied that he was doing great. He had gotten a promotion at his architecture firm, had finally bought that lake house he always dreamed of, and was, incidentally, still single. "I guess nobody could ever measure up," Jessica added, before her eyes flicked over to me, and she fell silent, looking uncomfortable. Claire quickly changed the subject. Later that night, though, I caught her looking at Mark's social media profile. The second she realized I was behind her, she swiped the app away. She laughed it off, saying it was just morbid curiosity. She claimed she wanted to see if he still had that awful goatee that used to drive her crazy. I pretended it did not bother me, but a small, uneasy feeling settled in my stomach. Still, I trusted her. Our marriage felt solid. We rarely argued. We enjoyed the same weekend activities, and we had even started talking about having kids in the near future. I convinced myself it was all in my head, that I was just being insecure for no reason. A few months ago, I began to notice a more obvious shift. Claire became distant. She often seemed lost in thought, as if her mind was a million miles away. Whenever I would ask if something was wrong, she would flash a mechanical smile and say it was nothing, just stress from work. Our conversations became shallow and brief. She started staying late at the office more frequently, and when she was home, she was glued to her phone. I am not proud of this, but one night while she was in the shower, I looked at her phone. I did not find any suspicious messages or calls, nothing that pointed to an inappropriate relationship. In fact, it all looked a little too clean, almost as if it had been scrubbed. The absence of anything incriminating brought me a moment of relief, but it was immediately followed by a wave of suspicion. I know that sounds contradictory, but that is honestly how I felt. I tried to bridge the gap between us. I planned surprise date nights, cooked her favorite meals, and bought her little gifts just because. Sometimes, I would get a glimpse of the old Claire, The one who would laugh at my silly jokes or curl up against me on the couch during a movie. But those moments were fleeting. She would always retreat back into her shell, as if there was something on her mind that she could not, or would not, share with me. One evening over dinner, I decided I had to address it head-on. I watched her push the pasta around her plate without taking a bite and asked her directly what was going on. I told her not to say it was nothing, because I knew better. She looked up, her expression a mixture of guilt and surprise. She blamed it on stress from work, but her eyes would not meet mine. I asked if it had to do with us, if she was unhappy. She answered way too quickly, saying no, that I was perfect and our marriage was perfect. The response left a bad taste in my mouth. It sounded rehearsed, like she was trying to convince herself as much as me. Finally, I asked the question I was most afraid of, asking if there was someone else. She immediately denied it, taking my hand across the table and swearing she would never betray me, that she loved me. She insisted she was just overwhelmed with work and some family issues, and promised she would be back to her old self soon. I wanted to believe her. I truly did. But deep down, I knew something was fundamentally wrong. The night my life fell apart started out completely normal. Claire was working late again. I was at home making her favorite lasagna, hoping we could have a quiet dinner when she got back, just like we used to. I had just put the garlic bread in the oven when her phone, which she had uncharacteristically left on the kitchen counter, started ringing. I glanced at the screen and saw it was Jessica. Thinking it might be important, I answered. "Hello, Claire's phone," I said. There was a pause on the other end. "Oh, hey, Leo. It is Jessica. Is Claire around?" "No, she is still at work. Want me to have her call you back?" Another pause. I actually thought she was with you. We were supposed to grab coffee a couple of hours ago, but she never showed up. I have been calling and texting." My hand tightened around the phone. Claire had told me she had a late night at the office. Why would Jessica say they had plans? Jessica's voice sounded hesitant, as if she was second-guessing herself. I hung up and just stood there in the kitchen, staring into space. Where was Claire? Why lie about working late? I tried calling her, but it went straight to voicemail. I sent a casual-sounding text asking her to call me. Then I sat at the dining room table in the dark, the smell of cooling lasagna filling the silent apartment. Claire got home around 9 in the evening, her hair a mess and a look of exhaustion on her face. Her eyes widened a bit when she saw me sitting there. "Why are you sitting in the dark?" she asked, flicking on the light. "Where were you, Claire?" "At work, like I told you," she replied, but her voice was thin. "Jessica called. She said you two were supposed to get coffee, but you stood her up." Her face cycled through a series of emotions in a split second. Surprise, guilt, a quick calculation, and then a forced calm. "Oh my goodness, I completely forgot about Jessica. Work has been so insane, it totally slipped my mind," she said. "I should call her and apologize." "So you were at work?" I pressed. "Yes, of course. Where else would I be?" I wanted to believe her, but her entire posture was a lie. Her body was too still, her smile too rigid. "I do not know, Claire. That is what I am trying to figure out," I said. She stepped toward me, wrapped her arms around my neck, and kissed my forehead. "Do not be silly. I was at work. I forgot about Jessica. End of story. Now, is that lasagna I smell?" she said with a weak smile. I let it go that night, but the seed of doubt had been firmly planted. The next morning, I did something I am not proud of. I called her office and asked for her. The receptionist told me that Claire had actually left early the previous day, around 3 in the afternoon, citing a personal matter. I did not confront her. Instead, I started watching her more closely. Her excuses became more elaborate, her stories about her whereabouts more detailed. The woman I had trusted with my entire life was becoming a stranger, and it was tearing me apart. Everything came to a head on a Tuesday. I was working from home, finishing up some reports, when Claire called me around 2 in the afternoon, her voice trembling. "Mark was in an accident," she blurted out, no preamble. "It is a serious situation. A really bad one. Can you take me to Mercy General Hospital?" I felt like the wind had been knocked out of me. Mark, her ex from years ago. Why was she this upset? How did she even know? "How did you find out?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Jessica called me," she said quickly. "Please, can you just come get me? I am at the office." I agreed without thinking, my mind racing as I grabbed my keys and headed for the car. When I picked her up, she was a wreck. Mascara was streaming down her face, and her hands were shaking as she fumbled with her seatbelt. "What happened?" I asked as I pulled out into traffic. "A car crash," she sobbed. He was on his way to a client meeting, and a delivery truck ran a red light. It struck his car on the driver's side. "He is in surgery right now." I glanced over at her. "Jessica told you all of this?" "Yes, she is friends with his sister. Please, just drive faster." The hospital was on the other side of town, and the ride was filled with the sound of Claire's quiet, ragged sobs. I tried to make sense of it. Why was an ex-boyfriend from nearly a decade ago eliciting this kind of reaction? When we pulled into the hospital parking garage, I put the car in park and turned to her. "Claire, I know this is a terrible situation, but why is this hitting you so hard?" She looked at me, her eyes red and pleading. "Please, I just have to be in there. I still love him." The world just stopped. My wife, the woman I had built my life with, had just confessed, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world, that she was in love with another man. I did not say a word. I just got out, walked her to the emergency room entrance, and watched as she ran inside without looking back. There was no thank you, not a word, not even a nod in my direction. In that moment, for her, I had ceased to exist. I sat in my car in that parking garage for what felt like an eternity, just staring at the hospital doors. Part of me wanted to go in there and demand an explanation, but a much larger part of me already knew the truth. Her distance, the forgotten coffee with Jessica, the late nights at work. It all clicked into place. Claire had been seeing Mark again. For how long? I had no idea. And at that point, it did not even matter. The only thing that mattered was that she loved him, and she had said it with a clarity that left no room for interpretation. I eventually drove home. Our apartment felt alien, like I was walking through a stranger's life. I sat on the edge of our bed, the one we had assembled together from IKEA boxes, while laughing and arguing the whole time, and I made a decision. I started packing methodically. I took only my essentials, clothes, important documents, my laptop. I left the furniture, the television, all of it. The material things had lost all meaning. As I packed, memories flooded in. Our first date, the day we moved in, our wedding. It all felt like a lifetime ago. Had it all been a lie? Or had Claire just settled for me while her heart was always somewhere else? Before I left, I wrote a short note and left it on the kitchen counter. "Do not worry, now he can keep you." It was simple and direct. I thought about writing more, about pouring out all my pain and anger, but what was the point? Her choice had been made long before that afternoon. I called my friend Dave and asked if I could stay at his place for a bit. He did not ask questions. He just said, "Of course, man. The door is open." I took one last look at the apartment that had been our home and walked out, closing the doors softly behind me. I turned my phone off. I was not ready to hear what she had to say. The next morning, I called my boss and told him I needed to take a few personal days. Then I scheduled a consultation with a divorce attorney. The whole experience felt surreal, like I was an actor in a movie about someone else's life falling apart. When I finally turned my phone back on 3 days later, it was flooded with dozens of missed calls and text messages from Claire. At first, they were confused, asking where I was, what was going on, and what my note meant. Then, they became pleading, begging me to call her, and saying it was all a huge misunderstanding. And finally, they were desperate. I did not mean what I said. "Please come home. I made a terrible mistake. I love you, not him." I read them all with a strange sense of detachment. The initial shock had worn off, leaving behind a cold, hollow feeling. I did not reply to any of them, but I did listen to one of her tearful voicemails. She kept repeating that she was not thinking clearly in the car, that she was just worried about Mark as a friend, that she did not really love him, and that she loved me. She begged me to come back so we could talk. It was too little, too late. In a moment of unguarded, emotional honesty, the truth had come out. No amount of backtracking could put it back in the bottle. Dave let me stay with him for 2 weeks while I found a small apartment on the other side of town. I threw myself into my work. I started going to the gym every day. I reconnected with old friends. On the surface, I probably looked like I was handling it well. Inside, I was a wreck. Claire kept trying to contact me. She called, she texted, she even showed up at my office one day, but I had security ask her to leave. Her emails were long and rambling, explaining that she was just confused, that seeing Mark in such a vulnerable state had dredged up old feelings that were not real, and that our marriage was the only thing that mattered to her. Every excuse felt like another lie. I learned through a mutual friend that Mark's injuries, while serious, were not life-threatening. He had a broken leg and a concussion, but he was expected to make a full recovery. I also learned that Claire had been visiting him in the hospital every single day, spending hours at his bedside. Her claims that she was just worried about him as a friend rang hollow and ironic. A month after I moved out, Megan, Claire's younger sister, reached out. We had always gotten along, so I agreed to meet her for coffee. She is a mess, Leo, Megan told me, stirring her latte. Is she a mess because she made a huge mistake by telling me she loved him, or because she got caught seeing him behind my back for who knows how long? I asked, unable to hide the bitterness in my voice. No, Megan said firmly. It was not like that. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Look, I am not defending what she said. It was an awful, unforgivable thing to say. But there was no physical relationship. What do you mean? Megan sighed. They reconnected on social media about 6 months ago. At first, it was just casual, catching up. But a couple of months ago, they started sending longer messages, reminiscing about the old days. She told me about it because she felt guilty. Even though nothing physical ever happened, she was just confused about her feelings. She should have told me, I said flatly. I know. I told her the same thing, Megan replied. She wanted to figure it out on her own first. It was a foolish move, and that is supposed to make it better? No, she said, looking down at her cup. I just wanted you to know the whole story. I think she genuinely loves you, Leo. I think she got swept up in nostalgia, and when she heard Mark was hurt, she panicked, and all those confused feelings came to the surface. I thanked her for her honesty, but my decision was already made. Claire had broken my trust in the most profound way possible. Even if it was not physical, she had been emotionally unfaithful, and she had lied to my face to cover it up. Some lines, once crossed, you can never uncross. 3 months after I left, I finally agreed to meet Claire. Not for a reconciliation, but to discuss the division of our assets for the divorce. We met at a neutral coffee shop, and seeing her in person hit me harder than I expected. She was thinner, pale, with dark circles under her eyes. For a split second, I felt a pang of my old protective instincts, but I pushed it down. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I just nodded, keeping my expression neutral. I wanted to get this over with. The divorce papers. I started, but she cut me off. Is that really all you want to talk about? Yes, I said, my voice firm. I laid out the basic terms my attorney had drafted. As I spoke, her face crumbled. Please, Leo, do not do this. We can fix this. I know I made a terrible mistake, but I love you, she said, her voice cracking. You love me, or you love the idea of me? I asked coldly. Mark is the one you were talking to for months without ever mentioning it to me. She went pale. Megan told you. She did. And while I appreciate her honesty, which is more than I can say for you, you should have told me the second he messaged you. I know that now. But nothing happened. We were just talking. My feelings got tangled up, that is all. I sighed, pulling my hands back from the table. That does not excuse the lying, Claire. I was not thinking straight, she whispered. What I said in the car was just a moment of panic. It was not how I really feel. I swear I love you. Then I asked the question I had to ask. Why were you at the hospital with him every day? She looked stunned, as if she had not expected me to know. I felt responsible. I felt guilty. The accident happened right when all of this was going on, and I just needed to make sure he was going to be okay before I could even think about trying to fix us. I just shook my head. You ran into that hospital without a second thought for me. You did not care how your words had just destroyed me. In that one moment, I saw exactly where I stood. That is not fair, she protested, her voice rising. People say things they do not mean when they are in shock. Or maybe, I countered, they say exactly what they mean because their guard is down. Either way, I can no longer trust you, Claire. And without trust, what do we have? She started to cry, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. I made one mistake. A horrible, stupid mistake. Are you really going to throw away 5 years because of one moment of confusion? It was not one moment, I said, my own voice tight with emotion. It was months of lies by omission. Months of you pulling away while I was going crazy trying to figure out what I had done wrong. It was how easily you said it. Telling me you still love him. You said it like you were telling me the sky is blue. And your first instinct was to lie about everything else instead of just being honest with me. We sat in silence for a long moment, the chasm between us feeling a mile wide. Finally, I stood up. My lawyer will be in touch with yours. I think it is better if we do not do this again. And that is it, she asked, her voice broken. You will not even try to forgive me. I thought about her question. Some things cannot be taken back, Claire. There is a kind of trust that, once it is shattered, you cannot glue back together. I hope you find what you are looking for, whether it is with Mark or someone else. But it is not going to be with me. As I walked away, I heard her call my name. He means nothing to me. I realized that the second you were gone. Please, Leo. I did not look back. 3 months have passed since that day. The divorce is still in process. Claire has been fighting it every step of the way, refusing to sign the papers and constantly requesting mediation sessions where she just begs for another chance. Her persistence would almost be touching if it was not so frustrating. I heard through the grapevine that Mark made a full recovery and tried to rekindle things with her. Apparently, she turned him down flat, telling anyone who will listen that she made the biggest mistake of her life and that all she wants is to save our marriage. It is a shame she did not have that epiphany before she turned our lives upside down. I have been going to therapy to work through it all. Some days are better than others. I miss the life I thought I had. I miss the woman I thought Claire was. But I am starting to accept that person might not have ever really existed. The divorce is moving forward, just slower than I would like. Last week, I got a handwritten letter from her. A multi-page letter detailing every step of her reconnection with Mark, from the first innocent message to their more frequent conversations. She admitted she was flattered by the attention, that she enjoyed the nostalgia, and that she let herself get confused. She wrote about the day of the accident, about the panic she felt when his sister called, and how in that moment of fear, old feelings resurfaced. She said what she told me was unforgivable, but she swore it came from a place of panicked impulse, not genuine love. The letter ended with this. I see it clearly now. Mark represented my past. He was a simpler time, before real-world responsibilities. I was not in love with him. I was in love with the memory of the girl I used to be. You, Leo, are my love, my present, and my future. I was a fool to risk our life together for a ghost. I will spend the rest of my life regretting the pain I caused you, and if you never give me another chance, I will understand. But I will hope with every part of my soul that you do. The letter was well written. It sounded sincere, but as I folded it and put it away, I knew my decision had not changed. Some bells cannot be unrung. Some words, once spoken, hang in the air forever. And some kinds of trust, once broken, can never be made whole again. Claire still calls and texts, hoping for a reconciliation that will never come. I have started moving on. I have been on a few casual dates. I am focusing on my career, and I am even considering relocating to another city for a clean slate. Life, it turns out, keeps going. If there is a lesson in all this, maybe it is that the most damaging betrayals do not always come from malice, but from a moment of careless honesty. Claire did not set out to end our marriage. She just blurted out a truth she had been hiding, maybe even from herself. And in doing so, she revealed that the foundation of our relationship was not made of rock, but of sand. Or maybe the lesson is simpler. Be careful what you say when you are under pressure. The truth has a funny way of coming out, and once it is out there, you can never take it back. Either way, I am moving forward. Alone for now, but a little bit wiser. Edit 1. I never expected this story to get so much attention. Thank you all for your comments and your support. To answer a few questions. Yes, I am certain there was no physical relationship before the accident. Mutual friends confirmed it, and Claire's sister even showed me some of their early texts where Claire was hesitant to even write back to Mark. I am not going to change my mind about the divorce. Some have suggested couples therapy, and I appreciate the thought, but some breaches of trust are just too deep to repair. I have not spoken to Mark, and I have no plans to. This was never about him. It is about Claire's choices and her words. For those saying I am being too harsh, you might be right. Maybe with time, I will see things differently. But right now, I cannot imagine trying to rebuild a life on such a fractured foundation. I deserve to be with someone who does not have to wonder who they love. And yes, I am keeping the dog. She is snoring on the rug next to me as I type this. It has been a week since I first posted, and in a strange turn of events, Claire found the story. A mutual friend who knew our situation sent her the link. She was upset at first. I get it, since sharing something so personal is a big deal. But she said that after reading through the comments, she finally started to understand my perspective and the true extent of the damage she had caused. She has agreed to sign the divorce papers without any more delays. In a weird way, I think this post gave us both a form of closure. We had our first civil conversation in months yesterday, just a practical talk about dividing up our things. There was no tension, no tears, no pleading. As for me, I accepted a job offer in another state. It is a fresh start, with all the cliches that sometimes turn out to be true. Thanks again, everyone. This community helped me more than you know. And yes, the dog is definitely coming with me. Comment. Hearing a story like this reminds me of how fragile trust truly is and how much courage it takes to walk away when that trust is broken. Choosing yourself in the aftermath of a deep betrayal is never an easy path, but it is often the most necessary one for your peace of mind. We all deserve a relationship built on absolute certainty, where love is a solid foundation rather than a lingering question mark. The words we speak under pressure reveal so much about our inner truth, reminding us to be mindful of the weight our actions and honesty carry. Healing does not mean erasing the past, but rather learning how to carry the lessons forward without letting the pain define your future. It is completely okay to forgive someone from a distance while keeping your boundaries firmly in place. Sometimes the greatest act of self-care is closing a chapter that no longer serves you and stepping onto a new path with a quiet heart. I hope you always find the strength to prioritize your well-being and surround yourself with people who celebrate your worth every single day. I would love to read your thoughts on setting healthy boundaries and finding closure in the comments below. Thank you for spending time with me today, and remember to always be kind to yourself as you navigate your journey. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.